Here's a perfect example of how not to dispose of your old laptop. So I went to the thrift store recently and I found this. This is a Gateway Solo 2500 from around 1999. And I picked this up for, if I can get it in the shot here. I picked this up, it says $8, but I picked it up for about $7.50. With tax, of course. Now, at first glance, this laptop looks like it's a little beat up. As you can see, it's missing the optical drive bezel. That's because the optical drive didn't work when I got it, and I had to replace it. And of course, I broke the bezel in half when trying to replace it. But it doesn't matter anyways, because it didn't fit any of the spare optical drives I had, so figures. But anyways, I figured I'd do a little video. We'll do a brief overview of this laptop. We'll do a quick tour, and then we'll show you why this is how not to dispose of your old laptop. So first, let's take the camera off the tripod. And I have to keep the camera plugged in, of course, because the battery is getting kind of weak. This camera is already 8 years old. So let's take a quick tour. Go ahead and get on the floor here. So I can't show the bottom of the computer because it has stickers with the person's name and phone number, so I don't want to give away any personal information. So on the left side we have a Kensington lock, cooling vent here, composite video output, something you certainly don't see on modern laptops, 2 USB 1.1 ports. Gotta cover that up because it's got the previous owner's name. We have microphone out, line in, and headphone in, and even headphone out, and even a hardware-controlled volume wheel. That's something you certainly don't see on modern laptops, and Toshiba used to do that on their laptops for the longest time. But then eventually, I think just a couple years ago, they stopped doing that. Then you got your optical drive here. It originally had a 4X CD-ROM, but I replaced it with a DVD-ROM drive, missing the bezel, of course, as I explained earlier. 3.5-inch floppy, which I have not tested, so I have no idea if it works or not. 2 PCMCIA card slots, can take 2 Type 2 cards or 1 Type 3. PS2 keyboard mouse port, DC in. On the back you can see why the condition is, what makes me say this is in fair condition. As you can see, the hinges are cracked, and this one's broken. So on the back you have a DB25 parallel, docking station connector, VGA out with the screws, something you don't see on modern laptops, RS-232 serial, and you have a cooling fan right there. Alright, with the camera of course deciding not to focus, let's go ahead and boot this thing up. Hopefully it'll focus when we turn this on. Press F2 to go to setup. Make sure the camera is focused. Oh, can't really see it, can you? See if I can zoom in on that a little bit. The lighting it's a nice sunny day here, but that means you probably can't see much. Yeah, it's the best I can get it. The battery's low, so I can't take the camera off the tripod and unplug it. So as you can see, the date and time is good. It's funny because it actually has diskette A and diskette B, so that would suggest that it's kind of weird seeing diskette B because there's no extra bay to install a second floppy drive, so that's kind of weird. It also has IDE configurations for where you can set it's the older style where you have to enter the type of drive, the number of cylinders, number of heads, number of sectors, and there is auto detection, but that's enabled, so thank God, because I remember I worked with some computers where you have to manually enter all that information in, and it's not fun. Thankfully, no passwords have been set on here. As you can see, it also It also has a TV out mode, which I can't change for some reason. But you can. I'm sure you could change it between NTSC and PAL. But for some reason I can't change that value. I guess maybe you have to do shift. Oh, okay, yep, you got to do shift and then plus. Okay, that makes sense. Has video expansion enabled, which is nice. It expands the screen. Built-in pointing device. You can enable, disable the trackpad here. We also have configuration for integrated peripherals, memory configuration, which I'll go into that. As you can see, it has 32 megabytes on board, one 64 megabyte stick and one 32 megabyte stick, so it's got about 128 megabytes of RAM. Plug and play OS, of course, if in case you want to do that. Large disk access mode is turned on. Supervisor passwords, thankfully no passwords have been set. You can change the options for the battery, battery low standby. And actually, something I didn't mention, this battery actually does hold a charge. If I unplug the power cable, you can see the laptop stays on. So we'll go ahead and boot it into Windows off the battery. We will not be saving the configuration. And hopefully there's not too much glare. Yeah, you can kind of see it, but the lighting makes it a little bit difficult. When I first got this, I thought it had Windows 2000 because I saw that loading bar, but then I saw Windows XP Professional. So this is a pre-Service Pack 2 installation of Windows XP, but there's another surprise, and you'll see why when I go to the system properties. It just goes to show about IT security. And for the record, we are still running off the battery. I have the charging cable, the AC adapter unplugged. The battery actually lasted about 20 minutes. I couldn't believe it. But there's a little problem in Windows, which I'll show in a second here. Makes me wish I could take the camera off the tripod or off the AC adapter because the battery gets very low quickly, so I'm going to have to find a new battery for my camcorder or just buy a new camcorder. Come on, camera, why won't you focus? There we go. Alright. So as you can see, we've booted to the desktop, no big deal. Let me plug the AC adapter back in. And we'll go ahead and take the camera off the tripod since it doesn't want to focus. We'll attempt to do this on battery power, but if the battery gets low, I'm gonna have to revert back to using the AC cord. So we'll go ahead and right-click on my computer and go to Properties. As you can see, we are running Windows XP Professional RTM. Yeah, no service packs installed. I couldn't believe it. And you'll see why that's a problem in a second. We have an Intel Celeron processor running at 334 megahertz, although the BIOS reports it at 333, 128 megabytes of RAM, and this has, I believe, a 6 gigabyte hard drive, but I'll have to check that in a second. Can't show the computer name because it has the personal, well, I guess I can show the owner's first name. It's called Vishal Laptop, so it was owned by somebody named Vishal, as you can see by the username on the start menu. And this was a very customized copy of Windows XP. As you can see, a lot of the shortcuts on the All Programs menu have been moved to random locations. There were no sounds enabled when I first turned this on. At first I thought there was a driver issue, then I realized he just had sounds disabled. And of course it has hidden files enabled, and you would think somebody who had that much computer knowledge would wipe the hard drive, but we'll get to that in a second about IT security. It has Google Video on it. That was in the days before there was YouTube. They had Google Video. That's kind of surprising to see. Something called GNU Emacs. I have no idea what that is. Oops, I don't want to move that. Tap to click, gotta love it. We have an old version of Avast antivirus, Adobe Download Manager, Tight VNC, Web Tools, which it actually has Opera on here, an older version of Opera, but I don't have it connected to the internet, so I can't really do much about it. Acrobat Reader 5.1. He still has Internet Explorer 6 installed. Leech FTP, copy of Microsoft Office 2000, and Spybot Search and Destroy. So we'll go ahead and open up Microsoft Word here. We'll see, because I haven't actually checked what service pack it's running. I know it's Office 2000, but I don't know what service pack it's running. As you can see, Windows XP is wow, can't talk today. Windows XP is quite slow on a 330 megahertz Celeron, which is why I will not be keeping Windows XP on here, because of course, Clippy has to appear. Who doesn't love... Anyways, let's see. This is Service Release 1. There are no service packs. Wow. Go away, Clippy. No one likes you. Anyways, but now for the IT security part. This is why I've said this is how not to dispose of your laptop. We have some personal files on the desktop. A notepad document called passphrases, which I'm not going to open because it does. I actually did open that briefly, and it contains a bunch of passwords. And if we go to My Documents, you can see that there are still personal documents left on this computer. If we go to My Pictures, you can see this guy has all his personal pictures in this folder right here, My Pictures in India. I'm not going to open it, but this is why you'd think someone with enough computer knowledge to enable hidden files, disable sounds, move stuff around, you would think they would know to wipe the hard drive before giving the laptop away. But they left everything on here. They left all their personal information on here. So that's why in the next video I do on this laptop, we will be wiping the hard drive and probably installing either Windows 98 or Windows 2000. Because obviously Windows XP added in the service packs and Windows XP is not going to run so well. And my battery is getting low. Wonderful. So that means I need to plug the camera in. Be right back. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. The battery on this camera is getting weak. I bought it back in 2010, and so now it's an 8-year-old camcorder, so the battery is just about had it. Anyways, so that's a review of the Gateway Solo 2250. Not exactly the fastest laptop, and not exact. Oh, right, we forgot to check the hard drive size. Silly me. You can't just end the video right there. So let's go ahead and go to Properties, and let's just make sure you guys can see that in the viewfinder. We zoom in a little bit. As you can see, this is a mostly full drive. The drive capacity is 4.02 gigabytes, which probably means it's a 5 gigabyte drive. They've used up 3.28 gigabytes of space on it, and there's about 758 megabytes left on this drive. Yikes. That's another reason why I will not be keeping Windows XP on this laptop. Come on, tripod. Because Windows XP, to run Windows XP optimally with the service packs, you really need at least a 500 megahertz processor or faster. I would say at least a Pentium 3. You need at least, I would say you should have at least 512 megabytes of RAM for adding in the service packs. And you should have probably at least a 6 gigabyte hard drive or better. So, or a higher capacity drive. So, In the next video, we will be probably installing Windows 2000 on this laptop. Of course, getting drivers is going to be a pain in the ass, but I was able to find drivers for that Gateway Solo 1150 over there. So if I can find drivers for that old thing, I think finding drivers maybe on a third-party website should be okay. Just got to watch out for the ones that have malware, but that's okay. I use a Mac. Macs don't get viruses, right? Anyways, that's it for this video. See you guys in the next one. Go ahead and shut the laptop down before we end the video.